Good evening, everybody. It's Robin Heron, your carnivorous grandma here. Welcome to Carnivorous Grandma Speaks Women of Wisdom series. I'm very excited tonight to have Rebecca from the Carnivore family with me. And before we get started, I'm just going to go ahead and read my scripture that I have for this series. The scripture is Proverbs 14:1, and it says, "The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands." And this scripture really resonates with me for this series because I feel like we as women are building our physical house and we're also building our homes with this wonderful new lifestyle that we have found. And I'm very excited about it. So, hey, Rebecca, good evening.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good. It's a great day. It's a beautiful day here in Tennessee.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Can you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Rebecca Reese, and I have a YouTube channel called The Carnivore Family, where I talk about how my family of 10, so that's my husband and I and our 8 children, how we have transitioned to becoming a carnivore family and just what that looks like for us on day to day, how we pack lunches for school, how we shop, how what prompted us to do that sort of thing. So that's the gist of what we do. And we live here just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and that's our life.
Very, very nice to be with you. I know that we have a show that we do together on Monday
Yes.
evenings, the Fierce Felines, but I'm really excited to have an opportunity to speak to you just one-on-one, get to know
Mhm.
each other a little bit better. And I'm popping up Joanne's hello, and she's saying hello to you and I. Welcome to everybody.
Hi.
And so glad to have you guys here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So can you just talk to us a little bit about your carnivore journey, how you got started, and how did you land on carnivore as your way of eating?
Sure. So we got started just almost a year and a half ago when my husband got very, very sick. We took him to the ER because he felt weird and he felt weird things with his heart. We thought maybe he was having a heart attack. And it turned out his blood pressure was like 230 over 100 something, which was just scary stroke levels of bad. So that while he sat there in the hospital that night, being grateful to still be alive and realizing how unhappy he was about his health and how much he would miss or he would thinking about what that would do to his family if he died or, and
Mm.
it was just, it's a long night when you're in the hospital thinking about those things. And he decided he wanted to make a really dramatic change because it felt like life or death. And so he wanted to try carnivore. And I said, anything you want to try that you think you could stick to get healthier, lose some weight, I will do it with you. And we decided to do it as a whole family because we felt like if it's is that this was a healthy choice, not just a weight loss scheme. So, and the more we've researched into it, the more we believe it to be, one of the healthiest ways to eat, if not the healthiest. And so we decided to do the journey as a family because there was no way he was going to sit there and eat hamburgers all day while our kids were eating macaroni and cheese and pizza and
Mhm.
tacos and whatever. So we're going to do it all together and take this journey as a family. We call ourselves Team Reese. So this is a team effort. And in the wake of all of that, he has lost about 110 pounds. His blood
Wow.
pressure is pretty close to normal ranges. It still fluctuates up and down some. We're still working on making sure there's not something else going on with that. But also his sleep apnea went away. He was
Wow.
pre-diabetic and he's not anymore. His depression has subsided. His anxiety is manageable now without medication. He used to take testosterone therapy and he doesn't take that anymore. So we're kind of like, it's kind of a win on so many levels with that. And the rest of the family is experiencing, good benefits too.
That's amazing. So, how did he hear about carnivore? Was it something that you guys had been aware of for some time, or how did he
Mhm.
actually determine that that would be the one?
Yeah, a little bit. We'd been aware of it for a little while. I had started us kind of on a keto thing for about a year before that. And I had tried to be consistently keto, and he had done it with me as well. Uh, we were limited success because we found ourselves really prone to keto products. And you could fill up on those Quest bars, and it's, they're just that sugar addiction that we were struggling with. It was not cured by having just other kinds of sweet things. We really had to kick the
Yes.
sugar sweetness entirely out. And so that we weren't super successful on that. It was a little better. But in that journey, in that time, he came across Dr. Barry, and he's like, this carnivore thing sounds really cool. And we tried it for a couple of weeks, and that didn't get past that initial transition. And then we went back to a standard American diet, and then everything just got worse for a while. So this was kind of rolling around in the back of his mind there, that carnivore seems like a good idea.
It's so funny. The more people I listen to talk about this, the more I realize how profound Dr. Barry's impact has been
Mm-hmm.
on the lives of so very many people. I too was listening to Dr. Barry and watching him go transition from keto to carnivore,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how he was thriving on it. So that's how I ended up on carnivore as well. So how long has it been since you guys have started carnivore?
It was June of last year. So I think that's 16 months.
I feel like
Yeah.
such a newbie because I'm like almost 9 months. I'm still a baby
Yeah. Yes,
trying to
but
make it through.
you're definitely over the it's a phase portion of it. So
Yes, yes. So how was your transition? I'd like to hear about like your transition as well as the family's transition.
Mhm.
So if you would.
Sure. For me personally, the transition wasn't too bad getting through the sugar cravings. I love sugar. I loved baked goods. I really want something bready every day and just over and over again. So getting past that, we're having to change your habits and kind of control your surroundings enough that you weren't even tempted. I was like, this is not the time to battle
Mhm.
temptation. We are just going to sit at home, throw all the bread away, and not look at anything for a few days until I can get that going. And after probably 4 or 5 days, the sugar cravings subsided enough that I could control them and
Wow.
not feel like I was a
That's great.
slave to the donuts and the cookies. It's just it's which is so frustrating to feel like, man, I can't believe I I can't resist eating cookies or something. They don't even have to be good cookies. It was just such a
Right.
frustrating thing. It was, I don't know. So having control over
Mhm.
that was such a big win. Um, and there was a little bit of that energy lag as adjusting, and it was really before we knew we needed to have fatty meats, but not realizing
Yeah.
how impactful it was to have a really higher than you think fat content to what you were eating. And so once we started to get that, it helped a lot to even everything out.
That's awesome. So 4 to 5 days. This is a very
Mhm.
interesting thing. I'm gonna pop this up just so that hi, Joy. Thank you for being here. And then, Joanne is saying, "Wow," to you, because that is awesome. 16 months is amazing. Um, but that 4 to 5 days where you're actually still having those strong urges and cravings for
Mhm.
things is the thing that it's I was just talking to my husband about this morning that, if you can just get past that,
Mhm.
um, and then it'll be amazing how
Yes.
much freedom you have to just ignore somebody else eating a donut or a cookie or cake or whatever it is they're eating, French
Yes.
fries, all the things that we love and that cause us to be addicted. I was just listening to a premiere that we had this morning. I had with Christy at Meeting Wellness, and we were talking about how the sugar is in the salt. Like
Mhm.
iodized salt has actually sugar in it, and which is absolutely insane and shocking. but true, that there's sugar in the
Yes.
salt, which is so crazy. That you would think that, you just buy the salt off the shelf and it's just going to be plain old salt, but it's actually not.
hmm It's not. Nothing is just plain old anything anymore. Feels like.
That's true. Everything's infused with sugar.
hmm
Everything is infused with sugar. It's just absolute insanity. So let's talk a little bit about fatty meat. So when you say, how much fat are we talking? Like, can you give me an example?
For me, I don't. So I don't count my calories or macros or quantities on a day-to-day basis, but every once in a while, I'll pay attention to what a normal day looks like. And when I do, it's about 80% of my calories come from the fat and about 20%
Okay.
from the protein. And that seems to be a good ratio for me. If I go a lot below that, I tend to get lower energy and my weight loss stalls. So that's where
Okay.
I keep trying to, I can tell when I'm starting to lag a little bit or I'm plateauing a little bit that I just need to add a little more butter or have a little fattier cuts of beef rather than some, chicken thighs or something like that, which
Mhm.
just have to be a little conscientious about that.
So how do you get your fat beside do you add butter or tallow or any other kinds of
Mhm.
fats to your food?
Butter and tallow are the big ones for me. So I try to just consciously put a little extra butter on anything that I cook. I'm putting a tablespoon of butter onto the top of it. And when we cook in the pans, we have tallow for cooking. That's a regular thing. I also do a fatty drink. I try to do it every morning. So I used to be a coffee person. I love my
Mhm.
hot drink in the mornings. And I decided about halfway through this to give that up as well. So I've replaced that with a um, what I call my carnivore latte. It's no coffee. It's just hot water or bone broth, and I add tallow, I add butter, and then add 2 egg yolks and sometimes a little heavy whipping cream, and I blend it all up, and I kind of just chug that down in the morning, and it gives me a big burst of energy like the coffee used
Oh,
to.
wow.
And it's obviously very fatty, and it's hot and satisfying, and then I'm typically not hungry until early afternoon. So it's a very satiating, and then I know I got all that fat in the morning to help me get going.
So how much fat are you adding? Because 'Cause I'm taking notes.
For the drink,
Yes.
yes. I don't. It's probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter and 2 to 3 tablespoons of tallow, and
See,
then.
this is interesting because I do a similar type of drink without the eggs.
Mhm,
I also add my collagen to it, but I'm probably not adding enough fat to it. I
mhm,
probably do like a half a tablespoon of butter and a half a tablespoon of tallow. And I'm not getting that great, energy that I would like
mhm.
to see, like I had when I had coffee. So that's
Right.
probably where I'm messing up.
Just add a little bit more so if it starts to cool off, it solidifies around the edges.
Yes, that's true. That is true. Well, I'm gonna take note of this because like I said, I'm not getting that. I quit coffee um during the month of October, so maybe a half a month ago, I would say.
Mhm,
And lately, I've been feeling tired in the mornings.
mhm,
So I've been taking a caffeine pill, a low dose caffeine pill to try to get my energy going. But maybe I'll try this fatty latte and see if that actually boosts that energy because I have to be alert in the morning for my job. So
right,
I
right.
need to be able to think straight. I need to be able to. I can't be like yawning through all my morning meetings.
Yep, exactly. Well, and that's where once I get up, we get going with the kids and it doesn't stop all day long. So I need that energy. I need to hit the ground running.
Me too. Same. Okay. So I know that you have, is it 8 kids?
Yes.
8 kids. Can you tell us a little bit about the kids?
Sure. So the oldest is 16 and
Hmm.
he's only one of 2 boys that I have. So I have 6 girls and 2 boys, and he's 16. He loves to play soccer and runs cross country, and he's a junior in high school. My
Nice.
daughter is the next one's about to turn 14 in a few weeks. And she plays softball and soccer as well. She loves to read. And both of them actually have carnivore channels that they don't do a lot with, but my daughter posts a lot of shorts from her day
Nice.
about what they eat. So he's the carnivore kid and she is carnivore teen on YouTube. And it was really sweet. She put up just a video just introducing herself and just talking about her transition to carnivore, and so authentic and so heartwarming, especially as a mom, just to see, because it's benefited her a lot in particular out of all of my kids. And then
So we have to have her channel. We have to have their channels.
Yes. So she's at Carnivore Teen and
Okay.
he is Carnivore Kid. And he might have some numbers after it. I'm not sure. But if you want, when we're done, I can send you the links and you could put them in the show notes.
Yes.
So that people
I will
can
definitely
find them.
do that.
But
absolutely.
But I thought it was cool. They just wanted to show what it was like to be teenagers. So she'll post in particular, she'll post like she went to the fair with some friends and she took clips of them and made a short together and just showed like getting meat on a stick at the fair and just like what would she eat at the fair? What does she do at her friend's house?
That's
and
awesome.
Things like that. So I like that.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So my next kids, I have twin 11-year-old girls. They'll be 12 pretty soon. They also play soccer and softball, and they are identical in everything except for personality.
Oh, wow.
So they're definitely their own unique pair. And if you look at my channel, you'll see I did an interview where I interviewed all of my kids and asked them about it. And they are very famously the ones that said they would not be doing this as adults. Like, oh, are you going to be carnivores as adults? No. They were like, no, we're going to do this as long as you make it. So they're not as crazy about it as some of the others, but at the same time, they're also not complaining on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. They're fine. They just, they miss candy and sugar and tacos and like everybody else. And it's the age it's all good.
Right. Yeah. So they've only been a carnivore so you've been carnivore for 16 months. How long have the kids been carnivore?
So the kids, we started at the same time, but we just transitioned them a lot slower. So, and I can go into more. Do you want me to explain kind of our transition now or?
Nope. Let's go ahead and finish talking about the kids.
Okay. All right. So the round out. So we have my 9-year-old loves to read. She's very quiet personality, loves stuffed animals. She also plays softball. And then I have a 7-year-old that's kind of our unique spirit of the family. She loves horses. She also plays softball. It's kind of a theme in our family, so softball. And then my second son is 4. And then I have and he loves anything to do with a dinosaur, balls, or fire.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's the age. Yep. And then my 2-year-old, who is the baby of the family, of course. And she is kind of our carnivore baby because she's probably only had a couple months of her life where she wasn't on the carnivore diet, essentially. So
that is awesome. That's a nice big family. I have 11 grandkids. I have 4 kids. My kids are all grown, of course, but 11 grandkids. And it's just so awesome to have a big family. It's always fun and it's always just a lot of energy and, just being with the kids is it's just amazing. I love it so much.
Yes. I tell people we are never bored.
Right. Yeah. You guys are busy. You have all these sports to do.
Yes.
Wow. That's
and they
awesome.
all ride horses too, because that's our other like family thing.
That's amazing. So you said that you guys have some horses, right?
We do. Yes. Yep. We have 3 horses right now.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. I grew up with horses. As a matter of fact, my dad, when I was 16, I wanted a car. He got me a horse instead. I was like, I can't go to town on my horse. I want to go to town. But but that horse was amazing. I just remember taking her out and taking her through the pastures and through the fields in my area. And it was a great experience of having a horse as a young teenager. So that was pretty cool.
It is.
So
Yep.
that's great.
I grew up on horses. That was most of my childhood was spent on a horse. So I have a lot of warm feelings about it for sure.
That's awesome. So do you have other animals?
We do. We have about 7 acres here. So we have about 30 chickens, 2 dogs, uh, a bunch of goats. I can't remember. So we just had babies. So that puts us at 11 goats because we just had babies.
Wow.
Eh, That's good. And we've had a whole variety of things in the past. Like we've had pigs and geese and just rabbits. And we also have a ball python because why not?
Oh,
So
wow. That's awesome. Okay, so let's say hello to these folks. And there are a couple of comments I want to put up. So Jay is saying thank you because um, she wasn't sure how to get that fat in. I think it's
mhm,
Joy. Yeah, Joy. Sorry. And so she wasn't sure how to get that fat in. And as you were saying, Rebecca, it's more fat than you think. That is the
yes.
thing. Like even if you're eating a fatty steak
Hmm.
like a ribeye, that's still
Hmm.
not enough fat. You still got to
It's
add
not
some
for
fat,
me.
right?
It's I don't know. It's not for me. I just have to consciously add more or I can tell that it's not enough.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I ended up yesterday, I went to my in-laws and they had fish, like pan-fried fish, which they blackened.
Mhm,
They didn't put any cornmeal or anything like that on it.
mhm,
But I today was very hungry because I
mhm,
ate that fish with butter, but it's still so very lean that it's
mhm.
like I needed to have a whole bunch. I probably needed a stick of butter with each piece of fish because it was just so lean. Yeah, so let's say hello to the rest of these people. Let's see. Oh, my mouse is acting crazy. Renee is here. Hi, Renee. Thank you for being here. Renee said, I wanted a horse, but I got a bike. I wanted a car, but I got a horse. So crazy. Now, Joy says, love me some ribeye. I was getting constipated. Oh my. Yeah, the fat is like, we need to add the fat. And even me, I need to add more fat as I'm going along. So
Mhm.
Renee says she's going to have to rewatch the first few minutes that she missed. Awesome. If you guys
Yeah.
have any questions for Rebecca, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get those questions asked. So you said that your husband had sleep apnea and depression and anxiety. He lost 110 pounds. And his blood pressure, which was the main thing, has come down. What about you?
Mhm. So for me, it's less dramatic, but it's still great. I lost about 50 pounds, which was awesome. So I'm
Wow.
down to the weight I
Yeah.
was when I got married, which is a nice feeling after 17 years because especially with having so many kids, it was always such work. I'd have a baby and then I just work really hard to get back to a good weight and then baby, and then I would get pregnant again. And so it was just like this cycle. And
Yeah.
finally, after the twins, I just never quite got back to the weight I was used to being. And it just started creeping up from that. And then after I had my last one, I was in my 40s and the weight just didn't come off like it did before. I would do all the same things I would normally do with counting the calories and watching what I ate and using the apps. And it just wasn't coming off. And
Yeah.
something was different hormonally. I don't know. Or my body was just going into a different stage. I couldn't say, but I couldn't get the postpartum weight off, and I was so uncomfortable in my own skin,
Hmm.
and it was hard to be active because it was bothered my joints, and so I couldn't do the high intensity workouts that I was used to doing before, and so everything was just and that affects your mood. I was sleepy, I had brain fog, I had a hard time getting through the day unless I was consuming copious amounts of coffee, and it was coffee and sugar and coffee and sugar, and I'm
Yeah.
just crashing and supplementing all day long. So those were the big things, is getting back to a place where I feel really good and I have energy
Hmm.
and I'm continuing to lose weight. And the biggest benefit I will tell people is that I'm not food obsessed, which sounds crazy because I've got a channel all about talking about food, but I don't have that voice in the back of my mind that's been there ever since I was a teenager and I started worrying about my weight and worrying about diet, where you're always thinking, I want to eat something, but I shouldn't eat that. And is this something? And how many calories does it have? And is it what's in it? And just obsessing about what we should or shouldn't eat all the time. And
Yes.
I was either not caring and then just feeling ashamed about all of the terrible food that I was eating, or I
Mm-hmm.
was obsessing about it and trying not to think about all the terrible food that I wanted to eat. So it was that in the back of my mind 24 hours a day since I was a teenager. And that
Yep.
voice is basically gone. I don't obsess about food. I don't think about it all day long. I eat when I'm hungry. I eat as much as I want. And I think, oh, I should throw some more butter on this, or I should maybe do this because I'm going to be gone all day. I'll try to eat a little bit more right now so I will be satisfied. Or, those kind of casual thoughts. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, food doesn't enter my mind the rest of the day. And to me, that is so freeing to be free from that.
Absolutely.
Like,
Totally 100% agree with you on
mhm,
that. I too was food obsessed, like
mhm,
constantly thinking about food. What am I going to be eating? And if I'm going someplace, what are they going to have to eat there? And getting so
mhm,
upset because they wouldn't have things that I could eat or whatever. And just constantly thinking, well, what am I going to eat tomorrow? I mean, just
mhm.
totally food obsessed. And that is like a miracle to have that obsession gone. Matter of
It is.
fact, I thought that was just a normal way of being. Like, I thought everybody
Mhm.
was like that,
'Cause I
that
think
everybody thought
for
about food all the time.
I feel like because it's probably very true, especially amongst women, where we have that voice in our head from a very young age, and we're very conscientious of it. And even if if you're ignoring it and you're not making good choices, I think it's still there in the back of your mind that you're self-conscious about the fact that you're ignoring it, or you're trying to talk
Mhm.
yourself into not being self-conscious about it. But you can't live in our culture and not be overly aware about food and food choices
Right.
all the time. It's ingrained in everything about how we are raised in this era.
That's absolutely true. I was with my 2 granddaughters today, and they're constantly thinking about food and what they're gonna eat and what am I gonna eat
Mhm,
next and that kind of a thing. So,
mhm,
it's definitely problematic. So now I wanna talk about the kids, and how did you
mhm,
transition the kids? Because 'Cause I'm really interested to know, do they have that problem or not?
mhm. Right, right. So we took it in what I would say is we took it in stages, probably around 3 stages for them, because we wanted it to. I mean, for one, since it wasn't their conscious choice, we were guiding them as a family, and we tell people, because we get so much flack about this, like we're just traumatizing our children because they don't get sugar, and
Mm,
it's
mm,
it's bizarre, but we recognize we're their parents, and we're going to do what's best for them, and we're going to guide them for what's best, and that's what we decided with this choice. So the first thing we did is we cut out all of the like true nothing sugar. So like, and all of the completely nutritionless carbs. So every bread product, rice, flour, anything like that we had in the pantry, the tortillas, the cereals, all those things we just got rid of right away because that was like the easy out. And that
yep,
made it to where our meals were meat based for them to start with. And so they could have as much of any meat as they wanted, but we still allowed them to do things to make it more appetizing as they started to make the focus around the meat. So we still had condiments. They had ketchup, barbecue sauce, honey mustard. These things are not good things because of the sugar laden in them and all the random things, but it made it so that they would eat the hamburgers and they got used to having all the dipping and everything. So it just make it that stuff. And cheese, lots of cheese, put cheese on everything, sour cream,
mhm,
all that kind of stuff.
mhm.
We also still let them have fruits and vegetables, but it was just things that we enjoyed raw. So I would get apples still and carrots and bell peppers, just a few things that they really liked. But I would just get them in modest amounts, and they had to kind of be moderate about them, which I had to do before anyway, because I could bring home 30 apples and they would eat them in a day. There's 8 kids. They
Yes.
they
Yes.
would just consume those things like locusts. So I was having to ration the fruit and vegetables anyway before. Uh, and then over time, just over the course of months, as they got more and more used to things, I would slowly just phase other things out. So I eventually just stopped buying the apples. And then I eventually, when we ran out of ketchup at one point, I was like, I may or may not buy some more this week. And eventually I just stopped buying it. So they got used to phasing those things out and choosing other things. But their taste buds were changing at the same time. So they
Hmm.
weren't as obsessed with those. And then
Yeah.
same with the vegetables. And so it was probably about 9 months that they went from when we started to when they were on a focused, carnivore diet, um, and a
That's
way of
awesome.
eating. So yeah, so took it a long process. So it didn't feel as, I mean, it was already a kind of a dramatic change, but it didn't feel as much. We didn't take everything away at once and then give them nothing to
Right.
replace it. So it was about changing the habits and changing the focus. And also the big part that was made it really successful for us was not was changing from I cook a big meal and everybody has to eat it to being able to self-select what they eat. So
Oh, okay.
as
Hmm.
so that kids they pick their food from the day. We stock the foods that everybody likes, and they make requests like, who do you want hamburger meat this week, or do you want chicken, or do you want pork steaks, or do you want uh, the chuck roast that we make into steak bites? And people kind of throw their votes out there, and I make sure and keep those stocked. And then they learn they cook them in the air fryer, they cook them on a pan, they cook in the barbecue pit, and then everybody helps cook for the little ones. But
Yeah.
everybody, they and that makes it, because I know for me, I would hate to, when you only have a few things that you eat, not being able to pick between them would be frustrating.
Hmm.
And so, I have a couple of kids that eat pork steaks, and like every day, probably 90% of what they eat is just pork steaks, and they're content with that. And then others that have more variety. So that gives them more investment in it, because they're getting to
Hmm.
be in charge of what they eat, just to it in that regard.
That is amazing. So, do all of your kids cook, even the little baby?
Everyone down to the 4-year-old cooks. The
Okay.
2-year-old does not yet, though I'm sure
Mm.
she's on the verge of asking. And it's
Mhm.
the last two were the 4-year-old and the 7-year-old, and they still, of course, need mostly a lot of supervision. Um,
Right.
but they watch what other people eat, and then they watch other kids cook, and then they help. And then at some point, like the 7-year-old she's like, I really want to learn to make scrambled eggs. All right, we'll learn to make scrambled eggs, so she can get up there and do it herself. And having the air fryer is a big win, because it's fairly safe. The worst thing it can do is burn their food for the most part, and
Mhm.
maybe their hands if they're not careful pulling it in and out. But my 4-year-old he doesn't use the stove yet, but he uses the air fryer, so he can cook like drumsticks, chicken wings, and pork steaks and hamburgers in the air fryer by himself. And I mostly
Wow.
just make sure somebody looks over his shoulder to make sure he doesn't put 100 minutes on the air fryer instead of 10 or something, because he
Yeah.
doesn't, but he knows how to pull them out, puts them on the pan, he salts them, puts it in, hits the button, flips them over when he wants. So it's really fun. And so they
That is
each,
absolutely
mhm,
incredible.
mhm.
That's
my my
incredible.
It's really awesome to watch. It makes me feel really proud as a mom. And it's funny on the channel, because people give you a hard time, because there's like I'm neglecting my kids because I don't cook for all of them or something. And I'm like, they know how to, like. I'm sorry. I think they'll be better adults if they can cook for themselves, because
Right.
that independence is so essential of a skill, to not be dependent on fast food and processed food and eating out. That's
Yes.
I mean, that's the quickest way to being unhealthy, is not being able to prepare your own food.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Well, I am like, I'm sitting here thinking that you are epitomizing the scripture that I read earlier about a
Well, I
wise woman. Oh my God, you're doing a
well, I
fantastic
love that.
job.
I love that you read that scripture because one of mine is the Proverbs 31 woman. So Proverbs 31, 10 to
Yes.
31. I'm working on
Hmm.
memorizing in that right now. And I just love how it's so focused on that everything she does is for her household. And so it's from providing the
Yes.
food to taking care of it to investing in buying land and then taking the money that she earns from that to invest in
Yes.
another business and just that it's all focused on providing for your household and nourishing them and
Yes.
caring for them. And so this is for me, this is all part of that.
That is awesome. I love that the kids are cooking. So what kind of seasonings are you using? Is it just salt or do you use any other
Mhm.
kinds of seasonings?
We are just down to salt as a family. That was not where we started, and we didn't know that was where we were going. Um,
Hmm.
Part of that comes when you start looking into the ingredients in some of the seasonings. You're like, I don't know about this, and I don't know about that, and so you start narrowing it down, and then it added onto it when we realized my husband was having a reaction to pepper, which was one of the last
Me
things we took out.
too.
Hmm.
I couldn't believe it. I would
Hmm.
have never
Yeah, it
thought
was.
that, but I actually am reacting to pepper as well. Black pepper. I haven't tried white
Yep,
pepper, but black pepper
yep. It
gives
was
me
the
a
black pepper.
reaction.
So we're a little, we're in the camp of the Anthony Chafee camp of that the plants are trying to kill you. So
Yeah.
we eliminated all the plant products, which is the main reason I gave up coffee was wanting to cut out another processed plant product. And mostly not because all of them are terrible, but because we don't need them and that they do add in things that your body has to filter out that are not there. Like peppers
Right.
are, we love peppers. My husband's Mexican. There was a lot that we had a fridge full of hot sauces and we made things
Oh
with
man.
jalapenos and all kinds of stuff. But peppers are hot because they don't want to be eaten. That's a type of toxin that they're putting out there to try to keep plants from eating their fruit. So, or to try to keep animals from eating their fruit. So we've grown to enjoy that spice, but our body is having to treat it like a small amount of toxin that it's going to have to
Oh
get
my
rid of.
gosh.
And so
That
while
is
we're
something.
healing,
Yeah.
especially,
Hmm.
we're like,
Hmm.
okay, we need to give our body all the tools it needs to heal the best that it can.
That's absolutely awesome. I'm still using like hot sauce,
Mhm,
that cayenne pepper sauce,
mhm,
and also garlic powder. But
mhm,
I've been using it less and less, I would say.
mhm,
So I used to put it on all my meat. When I first got
mhm.
started, I'd put garlic powder and salt. And then I do use the Redmonds seasoned salt as well. Um, but lately I'm just down to Redmond seasoned salt,
Mhm.
but and no garlic powder, which is just it's crazy for me because I love garlic powder.
Yes. Mhm.
But now I'm like, I want to taste my meat. I want to taste the meat.
Yes.
And it tastes so much better without the garlic on it, I guess.
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
finding.
that's one of the things, so at home, we don't have any of the seasonings, but with the kids in particular, if we go to like a potluck and we make sure that we bring something that they can eat. But if there's something there that's been cooked, like somebody brings some baked chicken and it's been seasoned with something, the kids are welcome to eat that. And as long
Mhm.
as it's not breaded or anything crazy like that.
Right.
But more
Mhm.
and more, they will try it and they'll say it tastes funny. And I can tell their taste buds have changed so much that they can taste all the sugar in the seasonings and the odd they're used to just tasting meat. And so
Yes.
they're less like we had a Thanksgiving potluck we went to a couple days ago and they were so excited to have ham and they all had it and they were like, it's not as good as I remember, just because it's
Mm.
got, it's not just pork anymore. There's obviously a lot of dextrose and in it,
Right.
and
Yep.
it wasn't covered in the sauces or anything. But just the plain ham, they would rather go home and have like an actual pork steak or a pork chop or
Mm.
chicken wings or
Mhm.
that are just plain with salt. So their taste buds have
Yeah.
changed despite what they think in their heads, like, oh, I remember that tasted so good. And then they taste it and they're like, tastes kind of artificial now.
Tastes kind of funny. Tastes kind of funny. We
Hmm.
got a question in here. I'm going to go ahead and pop this up. So, do you notice any difference between your kids that eat this way from the start and the older ones?
Definitely they all have their different approaches. The older ones are the most invested in it from kind of a head knowledge way. Like my son that's 16, he wants to be really healthy. And so he is one of the strictest about it by choice and opts out of little like he wants even when he's not at home to be just as strict as he is at home because he likes the way it makes him feel. And he used to get migraines. He doesn't get migraines anymore since changing to this way of eating. So he's pretty invested in that. And my teenage daughter is the same way. So they're both very invested because they have seen the benefits so personally. The middle kids struggle the most, I
Mm-hmm.
think, because that mixture of maturity versus having spent most of their life eating a standard American diet. But what I love about the little ones, so like the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old, and even kind of the 7-year-old, they this is so normalized for them that they don't even ask. So I tell the story like my 2-year-old at a Christmas party last year, there was a plate of food somebody had left abandoned that had cookies on it and little chunks of cheese. And she went over to it and gobbled up all of the cheese like she was like a excited little animal. She was like, yes, eating up all of this cheese like it was a big treat. And she didn't even try the cookies. And I think she may not even recognize that they were food because
Wow.
there was no part of her brain that thought I'm going to try to sneak this as a treat. She didn't, I don't even,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, she may not have known what it was because there was such a very small window of her life that she ate those kinds of food. And
Right.
they don't even ask, they don't ask for candy. They don't ask for sweets. It's such a small part of their world that it's like they almost don't remember the other foods. So it's very hopeful to me that when they get older, they're going to have to all make decisions themselves. And we talk to them a lot about this, about why we're doing this, why we think this is healthy, why we're doing it as a family, but also that, when they're adults, they are going to be responsible for themselves. And if they want to go eat what everybody else does, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going to know what it feels like to feel good. They're going to have that as their baseline. And I think most of them are going to find that very quickly that they don't feel good eating the other way. And then it'll be their choice
Yes.
whether or not it's worth it to them. But they're gonna know what normal feels like.
Right. That's amazing. That's, I mean, very few people these
Mhm.
days know what normal feels like.
Yeah.
Or, we think that all of these things are our normal anxiety, depression, and,
Mhm.
overweight, and all the different things, brain fog that you don't even really know you have
Mhm.
until the brain fog lifts and you're like, oh my God,
Yes.
I can see
Yes.
clearly. It's just so amazing. But so many of us are not experiencing that because we're stuck in the standard American diet or standard
Mhm.
worldwide diet, I would say.
Yeah.
So we have a
One of the
question
things I
here from
say,
Joy. Oh, go ahead. Yep.
I was going to say, one of the things I say is that I didn't know how bad I felt because I didn't know how good I could feel. Like, I
Right.
wouldn't have told you that I felt bad before, besides the fact that I was
Hmm.
uncomfortable being overweight. But when I feel good, I'm like, I didn't know I could feel this good.
Right. Me too. And I'm still healing, I will say.
Mhm.
I feel like I still have quite a long ways to go. I'm still dealing with some anxiety, although it's a lot better than it used to be.
Mhm.
I still have weight to lose and all that kind of thing. So, and I'm only 9 months in. So,
Right.
uh, you know, hopefully I'm going to have a good long time left to figure out how normal should really feel.
Yes.
Like, what size should this body be? What weight should I
Mhm.
be? If weight even matters, but what size, and all of the things that I'm hearing just keep getting better as you go along. So
Mhm.
you're 16 months in, double where I'm at. So it's pretty awesome. Yep. So Joy said, is cheese okay? What do you think?
Well, I think it depends a lot on your body and your personal goals. So or why you're doing this. So for us, we say yes, cheese is okay for our family. None of us seem to be sensitive to dairy. Uh, so it depends on where your health is at, because a lot of carnivores find that they are sensitive to dairy and didn't even know it before. Just so that's uh, where you're coming from on that. We try to keep dairy very moderate though, because a lot of dairy, for one, a lot of cheese will get you constipated. It's
Yeah.
tends to be something that's easy for us to binge on, and it doesn't have the nutritional value that meat does. And so we try to keep it to moderate amounts. We do it for holidays now and celebrations, and it's like our treat food is having cheeses. And I do find that if I eat a lot of cheese, it slows down my weight loss. So it's definitely something that I replacing too much. I probably am just replacing too much of it with where it should be meat. And so
Right.
so
Yep.
it really depends on the person. I think if you're just getting started and you don't think cheese bother you, enjoy it. And then as you're troubleshooting and refining it, try cutting it out for a few weeks and see if you feel better. Or whether or not you really even miss it, or just make it as a once in a while food. That's what we tell our kids. It's a once in a while food for us.
Yeah, I eat it sometimes. I kind of ate a little bit more of it after I did a month of sea lion diet, where I didn't have
Mhm.
any cheese or anything but beef and fish and shrimp. So I've been eating a little bit more of it, but I don't seem to have a problem with it per se. But I have heard that it can be a trigger for anxiety.
Mhm.
So, and it is, of course, very highly addictive.
Yes.
So, it's easy to binge on it. Yeah, like you said, it's easy to overeat it
Mhm.
because it's very addictive. So,
Well, and as you go along and you start to get more careful, this is one thing we've noticed, and you're reading the ingredients closer and closer, and you start to see how many cheeses have artificial colorings in them, or they have their additives, and that don't necessarily. I mean, cheese didn't need to be like this. Cheese is one of the most basic foods. And so
yeah.
being more careful about the choices of cheese that we make, if we're going to buy cheeses, we're more likely to get mozzarella than cheddar, because cheddar has orange dye in it to make it look orange. And my husband's
Oh
definitely
boy.
sensitive to that. And so I tell people, when you're just getting started, don't feel like overwhelmed to do all of the things at
Right.
once, unless that is you're
Yeah.
just that kind of person. But just start, and then just start looking closer at everything. Look at everything's not what it used to be.
That's true. Absolutely. There's a lot of comments about in here about using heavy cream.
Mhm.
So do you use heavy cream at all?
We do it in the same way, just very moderate amounts. My kids, when they have like a sore throat, or they want like a hot treat drink, they will heat up hot water and put a tablespoon of cream in it, and that's something that they enjoy. We also will
Mhm.
use it occasionally to, like on a birthday, we'll do Kelly Hogan's Oopsie Cake sometimes, and make
Yes.
heavy
Delicious.
whipping cream. And
Mhm.
just so you know, like, so if your audience doesn't know, like the Oopsie Cake is basically cream cheese, eggs, and I think salt. I mean, it's like 3 ingredients. So
Mm.
it's
No
it's carnivore
sweetener.
friendly. There's no sweetener. And then you make the topping is just heavy whipping cream, and you just whip it up until it makes it's like a Cool Whip, but there's also no
Mhm.
sweetener. So it's just and then we put it on that. And then we also use it once in a while to make an ice cream. So like Dr. Kiltz has an ice cream
Yes.
recipe with no sweetener. We use a heavy whipping
Mhm.
cream. We'll make that on birthdays sometimes as well. So it's a treat for us, is what we basically say. It's
Yes.
small amounts. Dairy doesn't bother you, go for it.
Yes, I have not tried Dr. Kiltz's ice cream yet, but I wanna try it. And, somebody's saying here, "Joy, I put whipping cream in my eggs." Sometimes I do that. Not
Mhm.
so much lately, but I used to do that a lot. And, somebody mentioned about using heavy cream to make gravy. which is also a very
Mhm.
nice option. It does work. You can
Mhm.
also use egg yolk
Yep.
to make gravy, to thicken things, and so that works out good. Um, let's see. Joy says, I love peppers. Never thought that way. Oh my. Yeah, I mean, that is
Mhm.
what Dr. Chafee teaches,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
Even Dr. Kiltz, he said, plants are the predators and we be the prey.
Mhm. That's right. They can't
So,
run
yeah.
away. They have to defend themselves somehow.
Yep, yep, and they have, like, these anti-nutrients and toxins in them
Mhm.
that store up inside your body, and
Yes.
so, yeah. Did you guys
Yep.
have any
And
issues with, like, oxalate dumping or anything like that when you transitioned?
we did not that I could really recall. That wasn't a term that was really floating around much when we got started, and so we've only just started hearing about it. We were like a year in, and we're like, oh, I don't know about. So if we did, it was pretty insignificant if it was for us. So
Mhm.
I don't have
Yeah.
any recollections. Giving up coffee, I mean, there was something was dumping because I was so sick giving up
Oh,
coffee.
no.
I tried to do it cold
Yes.
turkey and I had a horrific headache for days and I finally said I can't do it this way and I had to wean myself off of it because
Right.
I was incredibly addicted to it and that was probably a good indication to me of if no other reason the reason I needed to give it up because it was clearly affecting my body chemistry.
Mhm. Yeah, I gave up sweeteners, um, first before I gave up coffee, and sweeteners was so hard that it made coffee seem easy.
Mhm. That's good.
That was my experience. Thank you, Joy. We appreciate that so much. And then um, Franny Beeler says the Proverbs woman is amazing, especially as now we have enough energy to do those things with God's help. Amen.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
so true. Yes, indeed. Look at this. That is funny. Sneaking health food over sugar. It's so
Mhm.
interesting that your baby is just like, the cheese is the treat. That's
Oh, big
awesome.
time, big time.
That is awesome. I want to make sure that we ask this question because you have a very big family. And so, and people talk about how expensive it is to eat carnivore.
Mhm.
So what about the cost? Is it too expensive, or how's that go for you guys?
Sure, it's definitely one of our most common questions, and it of course, it's gonna depend where you're coming from on this. So I'm gonna say that depending I mean, if you're already starting off as an incredibly frugal, cost-efficient food preparer in your house and you're eating lots of budget stretch foods like lots of rice and beans and things like that,
Mhm.
then that that's not going to be the it's going to be different for everybody depending where you're at. We were pretty average in the way that we spent in our family. I was as frugal as I could be in some ways, but we ate out and we were busy and we sometimes you're stopping at the gas station and getting $30 worth of snacks on the way to a softball game and you know
Yes.
and my husband ate out probably every day and he was not cheap to feed. Fast food is not cheap anymore like it used to be. And so for us, that's to say we spend about the same, which is really funny to
Mm.
say because we don't eat out anymore. It'll go months before we will run through a drive through and get hamburger patties or something because it's expensive. We don't like them as much as the food at home and we're rarely starving. So we generally can always wait till we get home as long as we plan ahead. And we've gotten in a good habit of planning ahead, packing our own meals, preparing for the day, that sort of thing. So for us, it's about the same, but because meat, yes, is expensive compared to a pound of lettuce or a pound of rice or something like that, but it's so much more satiating. So we're very satisfied with what we eat, and we're not filling ourselves with snacks that don't satisfy because it
Mhm.
would be nothing for we would do like Friday night movie night and we would get snacks and you could easily spend $100 for our family to get we'd get ice cream and we'd get chips and we'd make popcorn and it all just was so fun but you're still hungry. And then we'd have pizza, and
Mhm.
we were spending $80 on pizza for our family for one meal. And we're sure we weren't doing that all the time because we were trying to be frugal, but all of that adds up. I mean, $80 buys a lot of meat. So when I
Yeah.
when I calculated out for our family, we spend anywhere between $5 and $7 per person per day. That's on a general day. And when you look at it that way, that's a pretty reasonable amount of food.
Yes.
So
Yes, it
that's
is.
average for our family. So obviously bigger people eat more meat than the smaller ones, but that's where it
Mhm.
averages for us.
That's pretty awesome. I think that I feel like I spend less money on food,
Mhm.
um, because I'm not buying hardly anything out of the middle of the store, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And all of that stuff has gone crazy prices since,
Mhm.
the big C. Everything has gone crazy in price. Like, the prices
Yes.
are really high. I do, buy a lot of meat from my local farmer,
Mhm.
and so I do, I feel like I save a lot of money that way because we get a large amount of meat that lasts for several months, and then, we don't have to go and buy the beef. So, but yeah, so I feel like
Mhm.
it can be balanced, right?
It
And
can be.
then,
Yep.
of course, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and we do focus on cheaper cuts of meat, and that's just, I mean, we eat a lot of ground beef. Like I said, a lot of pork steaks, pork chops. We'll buy a whole pork butt, cut it up into little bites, and fry it. Chuck roast is one of our favorite things. It's not we don't
Mhm.
like the roast itself, but we take a chuck roast. It's very fatty, very one of the cheapest cuts of beef you can get, and we cut it up into little like 1-inch cubes, fry it up in tallow, and eat it that way. And so lots of chicken wings, lots of drumsticks, lots of chicken thighs, and then lots of butter to go with it. And then when we want to have kind of a splurge meal, we'll get some shrimp, and we'll get some salmon, and we'll get some other things that are fun. But
Mhm.
and I take cans of sardines in my purse everywhere, so I always have something. So those are
Smart.
Yeah, so those
That's
are
very
frugal. We
smart.
don't we
So,
don't eat many ribeyes. There's ribeyes great. Ribeye here is generally 15 to $20 a pound. I can't do that
yeah,
very often.
right. Yep. Same. I mean, I get it when I buy my quarter or half cow, and
Mhm.
then, and then I'll go to Costco and buy a whole one and cut it up
Yes.
myself.
Mhm,
And then that way I'll have ribeyes for a little while. But
mhm,
the chuck roast, actually, I saw one of your videos or something where you were talking about those chuck roast bites, and I had cut up
mhm,
chuck roast for my dogs because I converted them to carnivore.
mhm.
I'm in the midst of
Yes, us
converting
too.
them. And, so I cut this chuck roast up, and it was like half of it left, so I cut all the rest of it up into those small pieces, and then I fried it
Mhm,
according to your instructions. Oh my gosh, it's so
mhm,
good, and I love chuck roast, it's one of my
mhm.
favorites, but those bites were I ate a whole bowl of that, it was so good.
It is. It's so
I'm
good. It
sure
is it is a staple in our household.
man, that was good. I'm gonna have to just keep that in mind for cutting that up. Do you guys eat any organ meats?
Once in a while, I'm the only one in the house that really likes them. So I grew up eating organ meats. My family were
Me
hunters,
too.
so my and dad and I would fry up the liver, do liver and onions, or fry up the heart, things like that. So to me, it's a nostalgic food. I enjoy eating it. We've tried it several times. Everybody else is just forcing it down. So we don't when we buy like a whole cow, or when I butcher an animal, because we raise some of our own meat, I will save
Okay.
those
Yeah.
and cook them up and keep encouraging the kids to try it. Like, just try it. And but we take the approach that it's probably not essential to eat it on a regular basis, because if you look at the whole animal and the eating nose to tail, there's one heart for every cow, or for any
Right.
animal, there's one
Yes.
liver. And so that's
Mhm.
the amount people would naturally be getting. And I don't know.
Yes,
There's enough carnivores who've been carnivore a very long time that don't eat them at all, and they don't seem
that's
to have
right.
any problems. So I think it's, I encourage people to try it. But if you don't love it, don't force yourself to eat it.
Right. I
In
can't
fact, it's
believe it.
just a. Oh, we're getting time. I was just going to say it's just
We
an
are
interesting
almost out
thing.
of time.
Oh no,
Go
okay.
ahead.
I'll save that story for it. Okay, just if you ever watched Michaela Peterson talk about her carnivore experience, she will tell you that she has about once or twice a year that she craves liver. She'll eat one meal of
Hmm.
liver, and then after that, it tastes bad again to her. And so she
Oh,
takes
wow.
that as a
Okay.
sign that she needs that nutrient input. And so it's listening to
Yes.
your body, listening to your hunger cues, and that's kind of the
Hmm.
approach we take.
I agree with that. And I've been eating liver and beef heart recently because I was feeding it to my dogs. And I'm like, I have to at least
Mhm.
try it. So I cooked myself
Yeah.
up some. It's so good. And right now
Mhm.
I'm still enjoying it. So I might just need those nutrients for a while. So yeah, so it's delicious when you need it.
Mhm.
Definitely. It tastes
Yes.
super good. So I do enjoy it, but I grew up eating liver and I do enjoy it. So
Mhm.
um, Annabella, I'm so congratulations. I just want to say
That's awesome.
congratulations
3
on
dress
your
sizes. Woo!
yeah, that is fantastic. We are out of time. I cannot, this went so fast. You're going
It
to have
did.
to come back because I really want to talk to you about your butchering and the different things
Mhm.
that you're doing. So, but just do you have any last things that you want to, anything on your heart that you want to share before we go?
I just the thing I focus most in hoping for my channel is to just encourage people to see that you can do this with kids, you can do it as a family, and it's gonna, may not know what it looks like, but it can look like a lot of different things, but that it's your kids will adjust, your family can thrive with this. And if you're interested at all in trying it, to go for it, because I can tell you the rewards it's been nothing but rewards for us. So
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Rebecca. Again, to me, you're epitomizing that Proverbs woman,
thank you.
the wise woman who built her house and, the Proverbs
Mhm.
31 woman. You're just epitomizing that for me. So thank you so much for coming and being with me on Carnivorous Grandma Speaks. And we will see you guys next time. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.